Hey everyone, I'm Dan from JazzComposersPresent.com, an online space where composers, musicians, and listeners come together to celebrate the music we love. I'm joined today by Christine Jensen, Juno-winning saxophonist, composer, and band leader, and assistant professor of jazz studies and contemporary media at the Eastman School of Music. Christine is here to show us how to expand motifs using sequencing and transposition.
Hi, Dan. Thank you for that. We're here to talk about one of my favorite, most basic things that I utilize as a composer. And in my studies of this music, of jazz, just having spent so much time with a linear instrument, with the saxophone, running so many, I guess we can even say licks, but lines or little motives, and transposing them and putting them through my instrument, I think it's become a really part of the dialogue I like to instill into my compositions as well. So it's kind of like I'm slowing my licks down, my lines down, and taking them on a little walk through a composition. So I thought I'd say a few things about it. Like, let's take a look at moving a motive or a phrase and repeating it through sequencing. Literally, we need to push up or push down on an idea. So I take an idea and I might transpose it up or down, or just diatonically sequence it. And this allows me to push things as far as I can through a structure. And sometimes I'll use some other explorations with motives in terms of truncating or extending them. But in general, just taking this one shape of 4 notes or so and just pushing it as far as I can with my ideas without even thinking of harmony. So it's just a melodic statement I'm trying to make, and sort of propelling it somewhere and propelling it as far as I can. It's an innate move we make in music making. We love to sequence. We love to hear repetition of some sort in music, so that it leaves us with something that we can hold. And some of my favorite contemporary composers really work well with this idea. So on that note, I guess we should probably look at maybe my first example of me doing a sequence, and I can talk about all the little turns I take with it. And we'll look at Red Cedar from Treelines. Let's have a listen. That's Red Cedar again. And for me, I was really thinking about pushing things up, making the line run up. There's actually just a small motive in there. It's just ba-do-do-da, and then I'm repeating it. But I'm making it enough of a phrase that at a certain point I'm able to, within the sequence and the repetition of it, I'm able to run with it a little bit, or take it for a walk for that matter. And I'm repeating a phrase and playing with it, but it's all within sequencing. And in this case, just not thinking about harmony at all. I'm kind of doing a chromatic step up. So it's like ba 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 da ba 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 da ba 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 da, and I'm just moving within the motive some notes chromatically around. And then, of course, in order to get that sort of idea of repetition and variation, once I've created this line that I'm able to sequence, I then start to play with the rhythmic elements of it a little more. So you hear this a lot in, we can always do diatonic approaches or chromatic approaches with the harmony we're working with. But in this case, I love thinking more of a chromatic approach so that I'm not thinking about harmony as much, and I go back and reharmonize later on once I again am able to get this line to start flying. So I have to say one of the kind of most amazing composers of sequencing to me that drew my ear is Kenny Wheeler with all of his writing that I'm attracted to. And I think a really great example of this is Kind Folk, if I recall. And Kind Folk, you can hear it on the album Angel Song, so beautifully done. And there's a lot of rhythmic material in it so that you actually don't even need to think about the percussion side of the music if you can really get into a rhythmic approach with your sequences. So in this case, he actually is able to take the entire sequenced melody, and then in his repetition he transposes the entire form. So if it's a 16 bar form, all of a sudden it becomes a 32 bar form, or possibly again that can be extended or truncated, and he is able to somehow keep our ear really engaged in where the line is going without a simple 16 bar repetition. So he's done a huge transposition, and it somehow leads back to the whole form starting over again. Again, I'm very fascinated by these sort of movements. So it's just follow a pattern and see where it takes you is kind of my whole premise of this idea. And melodic sequencing. There's lots of rhythmic sequencing that can happen as well. And I think the other thing you might have heard in the piece I just played, it creates a lot of momentum. So we're pushing forward all the time, and we're kind of extending our idea, and through that use of repetition and movement. The other thing I like to kind of think about is the type of sequencing I'm doing. Once I get this idea, once I get this shape, am I going to do an ascending sequence or a descending sequence? In this case, you heard a very ascending sequence. And whether you want diatonic or chromatic, like I've mentioned. And then there's just so many twists and turns you can take with this concept of taking a motive, which might develop into a phrase, which in this case, again, we just heard. And then we move forward into it somehow defines a form. I think eventually I'm looking for a consequent action or reaction from this material I've created. So you can hear that a little bit in the piece I just played again. But we can also hear it in another piece I wrote. This is actually one of the first compositions I ever wrote in my life. And I was just kind of thinking in a contrafact sort of way with the harmony. And this is called Fallen, and it was actually something that Ingrid, my sister, Ingrid Jensen, the trumpet player, took and recorded on an album. And it's just kind of a fun little lead sheet, but you can hear the sequencing that happens with this. It's called Fallen. Yeah, so that's Fallen. And the thing I like about that one is that a little more tension is created because after the sort of consequent 4-bar phrase before the last day, I actually ascend it, or no, yeah, I'm ascending up, and I start on a different pitch. So that's a real diatonic sequencing move. And it creates a little more tension because I'm starting on the 9 rather than the root with the melody, but it's still exactly the same shape. There's also a sequence that's going down as opposed to going up. And so that's sort of what sequencing is to me. And I think I probably gravitated toward it from practicing really basic piano from when I was a kid, playing the piano and learning really basic structured tunes and seeing the sequencing and going, well, yeah, the sequencing is something that, again, it's a very innate reaction that our ears love to grab onto, that the composer is making. So they are spinning the tail over and over in different ways and sending it up and down. Basically, we're allowed to go up and down. If we stay on the same note, it's not going to be a sequence. So on that note, that's my topic on sequencing and how much I love using that in my sort of bag of tools that I carry around as a composer.
Thanks for watching today's mini lesson. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Drop any questions, comments, or suggestions for future videos down below. To watch our full-length events and participate in live Q&As with our presenting artists, head to jazzcomposerspresent.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.